You ever notice how a woman can smile at you like she's fine, but the moment you walk away, she keeps replaying one tiny thing you did? Not the gifts, not the compliments, just that one moment that made her feel something deeper than she wanted to admit. And here's the part nobody tells men. Women never forget the man who awakens a part of her she thought she had locked away forever. Most men chase attention, but the man she never forgets, he makes her nervous. Not in a scary way, nervous in the way that shakes her soul awake. A woman's memory isn't built on logic, it's built on emotional spikes. Highs, lows, intensity, presence. And when a man shows up in a way that hits her emotionally, her mind takes a picture she'll revisit for years. Maybe nobody taught you this. Maybe you were told to be nice, be patient, don't be too much. But I'm going to tell you the truth, like a psychologist who has watched thousands of women confess what actually gets under their skin. Women remember men who make them feel safe and seen, strong and desired, challenged and understood. Not one of these things. All of them in ways that subtly rewrite her emotional blueprint. Because here's the psychological twist. Women don't remember men by their looks, status, or charm. They remember men by the emotional fingerprints left on their nervous system. If a woman felt secure with you in a moment she was secretly scared, she remembers. If she felt chosen by you when she silently doubted her worth, she remembers. If she felt understood when she couldn't even articulate what was wrong, she remembers. And if she felt that rare mix of excitement and comfort, her mind will archive you like a story she rereads at midnight. The world teaches men to be impressive. Women remember the man who was impactful. And that's what this video is about. The 5 things a man does that brand him into a woman's memory long after she tries to move on. Not tricks, not manipulation. Psychological truths about emotional imprinting. Truths most men never hear. Before we continue, answer this honestly in the comments. What do you think women remember most? How you look, what you say, or how you make them feel? And if you're ready to understand women in a way most men never will, like the video, subscribe, and share it with a friend who needs this more than he realizes. There's a specific moment in every woman's life when a man walks in and does something so rare, so quietly powerful, that her mind refuses to let him go. And the first thing he does, the first thing she never forgets, is this. He makes her feel emotionally safe without asking her to be perfect. Most men only show safety when a woman behaves the way they want. But the man she remembers, he stays steady even when she's tangled in emotions she can't fully explain. That steadiness becomes a lighthouse in her memory. Women live in a world where they're constantly judged for being too emotional, too sensitive, too dramatic. So when a man doesn't flinch, doesn't correct, doesn't minimize, but listens with a presence that says, "I see you, and I'm not running," he becomes unforgettable. Emotional safety isn't about fixing her problems. It's about being the one place where she doesn't have to pretend she's stronger than she feels. Let me tell you something most men never hear. When a woman feels emotionally safe around you, her body relaxes in ways she can't fake. Her voice softens, her defenses fall, her mind starts associating you with relief, and human memory is addicted to relief. She'll forget the man who made her laugh. She will not forget the man who made her exhale. But here's the deeper truth. Emotional safety has nothing to do with being passive or overly agreeable. Some men think, if I'm soft enough, she'll feel safe. No, a woman feels safe when a man has emotional strength, when he can handle uncomfortable conversations without shutting down or blowing up, when he can hold his own boundaries without punishing her for having hers, when he can stay grounded even when she's overwhelmed. That grounded energy becomes a signature memory for her. She remembers the man who didn't make her feel like a burden when she wasn't at her best. She remembers the man who didn't weaponize her vulnerability. She remembers the man who made her feel like her emotions were something to understand, not something to escape. And the truth is, many men underestimate how deeply this first imprint shapes everything that follows. Women don't forget emotional safety because it's one of the rarest experiences they ever have with a man. Before we move forward, tell me this in the comments. Do you believe emotional safety or physical attraction creates a stronger long-term memory in a woman? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with a man who needs to hear it today. There's a moment every woman remembers with absolute clarity. The moment a man sees through her surface and recognizes the parts of her she hides from everyone else. And this is the second thing women never forget. He understands her in a way that feels almost impossible. Not because he's psychic, not because he guesses right every time, but because he pays attention in a world where most men are distracted, numb, or only half present. Women notice everything, but they remember the man who notices them. The smallest shift in her tone, the way she gets quiet when something is bothering her, the fake smile she uses when she doesn't want to ruin the mood. When a man picks up on these subtle cues, she feels seen in a way that pierces straight through her emotional armor. And that feeling of being truly understood imprints itself onto her mind like ink on skin. Most men listen to respond. The unforgettable man listens to understand. He's not waiting for his turn to speak. He isn't trying to win the conversation. He isn't trying to make everything about him. Instead, he listens with curiosity, with attention, with presence. That's the kind of understanding she carries with her long after the relationship ends. And here's the psychological truth. Women bond through emotional recognition. When a man reflects her inner world back to her more clearly than she sees it herself, she naturally forms a deeper connection. Not because she's needy, not because she's weak, but because humans remember the people who help them understand themselves. And women, especially, treasure the man who can read the things she doesn't say out loud. She remembers the man who noticed her patterns without judging them. She remembers the man who asked the right questions instead of making assumptions. She remembers the man who could sense when she was struggling before she even admitted it. That level of attunement is rare, and rarity is unforgettable. Let me make this simple. A woman forgets the man who wants to impress her. She never forgets the man who understands her. So I want to ask you something personal, something honest. Do you think you're better at listening or at truly noticing? Tell me in the comments. And if you're learning something powerful about yourself right now, like the video, subscribe, and share this with a man who needs to hear the truth behind what women actually remember. There's a certain kind of man a woman tries to move on from, but can't. Not because he was perfect, not because he had everything figured out, but because he carried a standard that quietly reshaped the way she saw herself. And this is the third thing women never forget. The man who maintains strong, unshakable boundaries, not to control her, but to protect his own sense of worth. Boundaries are magnetic. They communicate something silently, almost instinctively. I know who I am, and I won't betray myself to keep you. Most men bend too quickly. They overgive, they over-explain, they overinvest long before a woman has earned that level of closeness. But the man she remembers? He gives without losing himself. He loves without abandoning his identity. He cares without collapsing. Psychologically, women associate boundaries with emotional maturity. When a man can say no without guilt, yes without desperation, and enough without anger, she feels something she rarely feels around men: respect. And respect is the foundation of desire. You can spark attraction with charm, but you build memory with boundaries. Here's what most men never understand. A woman is drawn to the man who can walk away if necessary, not because he wants to leave, but because he values his peace more than the chaos of chasing someone who isn't meeting him halfway. That self-respect lingers in her mind longer than any compliment, any date, any romantic gesture. She remembers the man who didn't argue for his worth. She remembers the man who wasn't afraid to disappoint her when he needed to protect himself. She remembers the man who didn't tolerate disrespect, even in small, subtle forms. She remembers the man who held his standards with calm consistency, not emotional threats, because that type of man becomes a reference point. After him, she can't take seriously the men who are too available, too eager, too willing to sacrifice their identity just to keep her around. Once she experiences a man with strong internal structure, every other connection feels weaker, less grounded, less meaningful. A woman never forgets the man who taught her, without saying a word, that a relationship should be earned, not assumed. So let me ask you this, honestly and directly. Which boundary is the hardest for you to hold? Your time, your emotional energy, or your standards? Tell me in the comments. And if you're getting value from this, like the video, subscribe, and share it with a man who needs to hear this truth before he gives too much to the wrong person. There's a final kind of man a woman carries with her long after the messages stop, long after the door closes, long after she tells everyone she's over it. And it's not the man who chased her, not the man who begged for her attention, not the man who tried to impress her with effort that came from insecurity. No, the man she never forgets is the one whose presence changed her, whose influence elevated her, and whose discipline forced her to rise to a higher version of herself. This is the fourth and fifth thing women never forget: the man who inspires her growth, and the man who pulls away with dignity when she stops valuing what he brings. A woman will forget the man who tried to fix her, but she will never forget the man who made her want to fix herself. The man whose ambition woke up her own. The man whose consistency made her feel safe leveling up. The man whose confidence wasn't loud, but calm. The kind that makes a woman look at her own life and ask, am I matching his energy, or am I falling behind? That kind of influence stays with her forever. You become unforgettable, not by being perfect, but by being disciplined. A woman remembers the man who kept his word without bragging, the man who followed through even when she wasn't watching, the man whose life had direction long before she entered it, and continued to have direction after she left. Because deep down, a woman wants to feel like she's part of something meaningful, not something chaotic. But here's the twist most men never expect. She also never forgets the man who walked away with grace. The man who didn't beg, didn't chase, didn't break down when she pulled away. The man who simply stepped back and let his absence speak louder than any argument could. That dignity becomes a scar on her memory, the kind she traces with her thoughts years later, wondering why losing him still stings. Women remember the men who shape their relationship with themselves, the ones who raise their standards, the ones who show them what emotional maturity looks like, the ones who leave peacefully when they realize they can't grow together. That combination, inspiration and self-respect, is impossible to forget. So now I want to hear from you, honestly. Which leaves a deeper imprint, inspiring someone's growth or walking away with dignity? Tell me in the comments. And if this resonated with you, like the video, subscribe, and share it with a man who needs to understand the kind of impact he's capable of making.